At first, it felt like something quiet, a whisper above the clouds, distant, almost forgotten by those who weren't listening closely. But up there, beyond the haze of Earth's atmosphere, something enormous is beginning to take shape, something that could reshape the future of humanity's presence in space. While the world's attention was fixed on SpaceX rockets and the drama of moon missions, China was quietly building something remarkable. A space station, young and alive with ambition. And now, it's about to grow into something much bigger. For years, Tiangong, China's heavenly palace, has floated silently in the ink-black sky, orbiting our planet like a secret kept from the world's gaze. Its three modules shimmer in the sunlight as Earth spins below, a structure just big enough to house three astronauts, their days filled with experiments, maintenance, and the quiet solitude that comes from living in the void. But something is shifting. The room is getting too small, the ambition too big. And China has made a decision. Tiangong will double in size. This isn't just an engineering update or a technological tweak. It's a statement, a declaration that China is no longer content to watch from the sidelines while others write the story of space exploration. With the International Space Station aging and no longer the exclusive symbol of unity in orbit, Tiangong has quietly positioned itself as the future. And now, it's growing. The expansion plan is bold. New modules will be added, transforming the station from a single T-shape into something more intricate, more alive. 6 modules instead of 3. More room for people, more ports for ships, more energy, more everything. It's not just about space, it's about presence. A larger station means longer missions, more science, more cooperation. And in the quiet halls of power, it also means influence. A future where Tiangong becomes not just a scientific platform, but a symbol of something far greater. But even now, as plans are laid and rockets are prepared, there's a pulse of uncertainty beneath the surface. Because expansion is never simple. It means risk. It means ambition that outpaces comfort. And in China's case, it also means grappling with a troubling legacy. One that begins the moment a rocket engine roars to life. The Long March 5B, a towering machine of fire and fury, is the lifeline of Tiangong. It's the rocket that put the original station in orbit. It's also the rocket that, on multiple occasions, has rained down debris from the sky like pieces of a broken dream. Not because of a malfunction, but because that's just how it works. It burns its engines long and hard, lifting heavy modules into orbit, but with no graceful return. The booster doesn't glide back to Earth on wings of engineering brilliance. It tumbles, uncontrolled, its fate decided by physics and chance. Sometimes, the metal falls into the ocean, but sometimes it doesn't. And when that happens, the whole world holds its breath. Even now, Chinese officials speak of improving the safety of these re-entries, of tweaking designs and optimizing trajectories. But the truth is, there's always a shadow, a gamble. And as the plans to double the size of Tiangong take shape, that shadow only grows longer. Still, the dream presses forward. Because for every risk, there's a reward. And China sees more than just a bigger station. They see a gateway, a platform for cooperation, a beacon for the next era of exploration. Already the first international astronauts are preparing to come aboard. From Pakistan, they will train, travel, and live among the stars, the first of what China hopes will be many. Behind the polished statements and quiet press releases, there's something more intimate at play, a desire to connect, to welcome, to lead. You can feel it in the silence of orbit, where each new module represents more than steel and circuits. It's hope, bolted into place, one piece at a time. A vision of a future where nations look up not as competitors, but as neighbors. And soon, Tiangong won't just be a space station, it will be a hub, a meeting point between Earth and sky, a place where science, diplomacy, and human courage collide. When the new multi-docking adapter is launched, a structure bristling with 6 ports, a metal flower waiting to bloom, it will mark a turning point. No longer just a Chinese outpost in space, Tiangong will become a station built for the world. But even as we marvel at the growth, as the shapes twist and expand into something more beautiful and strange, there's another kind of wonder waiting just beyond, because Tiangong won't be alone for long. Soon, another piece of the puzzle will arrive, a telescope, massive, powerful, and startlingly advanced. It won't float off into deep space like Hubble or James Webb. Instead, it will hover near Tiangong like a watchful companion, easy to service, easy to maintain, but with eyes that see deeper and clearer than almost any that came before it. This telescope will peer into the heart of the galaxy, capturing visions of stars being born and galaxies stretching across eternity. It's a machine built for awe, and yet it too is part of something larger, a sign that China isn't just catching up, it's dreaming bigger. The future, once held tightly by a few nations, is now shifting. Tiangong is no longer a symbol of what's coming, it is what's happening now, quietly, steadily, unfolding like sunrise on the horizon of tomorrow, and as it grows, module by module, orbit by orbit, so too does the story of humanity's reach. No longer defined by a single nation or a solitary station, but by something greater, something shared, something beautiful. Far above the Earth, where the line between day and night blurs in a constant loop of shadow and light, the Tiangong Space Station drifts quietly, a glowing outpost in the vast stillness of orbit. But for all its serenity from the outside, inside, there's movement, breath, life. And now, there's something new. Momentum. When the Chinese astronauts, taikonauts, float through the narrow corridors of Tiangong, they are no longer just scientists or pilots. They are pioneers, inheritors of a dream that once seemed so distant. A dream now unfolding one metal panel, one docking port at a time. The next chapter in Tiangong's evolution begins not with a grand celebration, but with the subtle clink of steel, the whir of systems coming online, and the low, confident voice of mission control. The upcoming edition, a multi-docking hub with 6 ports, is more than an upgrade. It's a promise, a declaration that China isn't just expanding its station, it's building a future that has room for everyone. With this new module, Tiangong will no longer be limited to a single trio of astronauts and the constraints of a compact T-shaped layout. The space will double, the opportunities will multiply, and perhaps most importantly, the station will become more flexible, more welcoming to both people and machines from around the world. But progress never comes without a cost. Behind the seamless headlines and polished animations lies a much more chaotic truth. The launch vehicle itself, the Long March 5B. It's massive, powerful, capable of placing enormous payloads into orbit. But it's also become something of a space-age boogeyman. The first time it rained debris back to Earth, it was written off as a rare mistake. The second time, it became harder to ignore. And now, each time a new module is scheduled for launch, the world collectively holds its breath, watching the skies, wondering where the rocket's core stage will land. It's a strange kind of tension. Modern engineering mixed with ancient fear. Fire from the heavens, guided not by precision, but probability. Chinese officials speak carefully when addressing these concerns. They talk about optimized design and enhanced safety, but the truth is more delicate. The rocket is underpowered for its task. To make up for that, they push it harder than usual, a little further, a little longer. And in doing so, they create a kind of limbo. The booster enters a low orbit. It circles the planet like a ghost, and then eventually it falls, uncontrolled, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous. Most times, it falls harmlessly into the sea. But that most isn't always enough to reassure. The risk, however slim, is real. And as the station expands, so too does the number of launches, and with them, the number of chances that something could go wrong. Yet, even with that shadow trailing behind, the ambition presses on. Because in the grand scheme of things, China's vision is bigger than the risk. It's about rewriting their place in the stars, about building something permanent, not just for themselves, but increasingly for others too. Earlier this year, China made history in a quiet but powerful way. They opened the doors of Tiangong to astronauts from Pakistan, offering training and the promise of a future trip. These aren't just political gestures, they're seeds of international collaboration, trust, and mutual curiosity, the beginning of a Tiangong that doesn't just belong to China, but to anyone willing to dream with them. Behind the scenes, there are rumors, whispers of more nations joining in, of astronauts from different backgrounds stepping into China's orbit. It's slow, careful diplomacy, measured in millimeters and months. But it's happening. You can feel it in the way officials speak, in the way the station is being redesigned, in the way the modules are being built to accommodate more than just Chinese boots on the floor. And all the while, another marvel is taking shape. Not long from now, a new companion will join Tiangong. Not a module, but a telescope. One that could change the way we see the universe. It's called the Chinese Space Station Telescope, but names don't really do it justice. It's roughly the size of Hubble, but born 3 decades later, carrying a 2.5 million megapixel camera, a device so powerful it can peer through the darkness to study the invisible fingerprints of dark matter itself. This telescope won't live in the cold isolation of deep space. It will orbit close to Tiangong, almost like a tethered bird, and when it needs repairs, Chinese astronauts will simply take a short spacewalk to fix it. This proximity, this built-in serviceability, it's a rare advantage, one that even the great observatories of the past lacked. The telescope is more than a scientific tool. It's a gesture, a symbol of China's intent not just to explore space, but to understand it, deeply, meaningfully, and with the kind of curiosity that transcends borders. And this is where it all begins to connect. A larger station, more astronauts, international partners, a space telescope. Each piece on its own might seem like a milestone, but together they form something much more profound, a vision, a quiet, carefully crafted vision of the future. One where humanity doesn't just reach for the stars, but builds something among them. Something lasting. Tiangong is no longer a footnote in the story of human spaceflight. It's becoming a chapter, a bold one, filled with tension, bravery, and the kind of ambition that once only belonged to the most powerful space programs. And while there are still risks to face and challenges to overcome, the direction is clear. Upward, outward, forward. And for the first time in a long time, the stars feel just a little bit closer. Not because of rockets or politics or power, but because someone, somewhere, dared to build something new in the silence of orbit and fill it not just with machines, but with hope. Back on Earth, far from the weightlessness of orbit, the story continues, not just in labs or mission control rooms, but in boardrooms, private hangars, and sketchbooks scribbled with dreams that refuse to stay grounded. Because China isn't the only one with eyes on the stars. A quiet race is unfolding, not for dominance, but for relevance in a future that will be built far above our heads. New names are entering the cosmic conversation. One of them, Rocket Lab, a small company from New Zealand with big ambitions. Their journey began humbly, launching tiny satellites with a rocket named Electron. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't powerful, but it was reliable, and it worked, over and over again. That reliability earned trust, and trust earned them something even more valuable: opportunity. Now they're preparing to step onto a much bigger stage with something called Neutron. Unlike anything we've seen before, Neutron doesn't just aim to reach space. It's trying to change the way we think about getting there. Its design is clever, almost poetic in its efficiency. The second stage is hidden inside the first, like a secret waiting to be revealed, and when it releases its payload and returns to Earth, it looks exactly like it did when it left. A rare feat of engineering meant to make launches cheaper, faster, and repeatable. This isn't just innovation for its own sake. It's a deliberate move to challenge giants, to stand in the shadow of SpaceX and still find sunlight. Because while Starship dreams of Mars and the Moon, Neutron is being built for Earth. Not to escape it, but to connect it, to take cargo, and maybe even people, from one side of the planet to another in under an hour. Science fiction has whispered about that idea for decades. Rocket Lab is trying to make it real, and someone is paying attention. The United States Air Force, watching from the sidelines, has quietly stepped in. They want to know if this technology, this new kind of flight, could serve more than just science, if it could carry supplies or aid or something else entirely to the far corners of the Earth faster than any plane ever could. That contract, small as it may seem now, could be the first thread in a new web of global logistics spun in low Earth orbit. But where some are launching forward, others are struggling to hold on. In a lonely warehouse somewhere, behind sealed doors and forgotten deadlines, sits a machine called VIPER, a lunar rover built to explore the south pole of the Moon. Its mission? To search for water, not just drops, but the kind of ice that might one day keep astronauts alive or fuel a journey even further. Viper was nearly ready, 95% complete, almost humming with purpose. And then, silence. The mission was delayed. The landing platform, built by a private contractor, wasn't ready, costs ballooned, time stretched. And in the strange logic of bureaucracy, progress became a problem. Viper crossed a budget line, and that was enough to trigger a shutdown. Congress saw numbers, not potential. And just like that, a $500 million project was cancelled, not because it failed, but because it didn't move fast enough. NASA tried something unusual. They put Viper up for grabs, an open call to any company willing to adopt a moon rover like a stray dog in a storm. But no one stepped forward, not because the mission wasn't worth it, but because getting to the moon is still painfully expensive. Even with the rover already built, just the ride and upkeep could cost another $200 million. And for most private companies, that kind of money doesn't come easy, especially for a mission that doesn't promise profit. Eventually, NASA gave up the auction. But they didn't give up the rover. It still sits there, waiting, not forgotten, but paused. A silent reminder of how fragile our space dreams can be when tied to timelines, funding formulas, and the slow grind of politics. And yet, there's still a flicker of hope. NASA's latest statement says they're exploring alternative approaches. It's vague, maybe even a little desperate, but it means one thing: they're not done. Not yet. And maybe that's the common thread in all of this. Whether it's China reaching higher with Tiangong, or Rocket Lab punching above its weight with Neutron, or NASA trying to salvage a dream from the ashes, the story of space isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. For decades, the skies above us belonged to a handful of nations, a few powerful players moving cautiously, afraid to stumble. But now, the script is changing. Space is becoming less about who got there first and more about who stays, who adapts, who builds not just machines, but momentum. Tiangong is expanding, and so is the idea that space belongs to everyone. Whether you're a superpower or a startup, a first-time astronaut or a forgotten robot, there's room in orbit, not just physically, but symbolically. Every new module, every launch, every repaired telescope, they all push the boundary of what's possible just a little further. And maybe one day, not too far from now, we'll look up and see more than just stars. We'll see homes, workshops, laboratories. We'll see international crews working side by side, floating not in isolation, but in connection. Tiangong might be leading that charge, and others, Neutron, Starship, maybe even Viper, will follow, not in competition, but in chorus. Because the universe doesn't care about our borders, our politics, or our pride. It only asks one thing: come and see. Come and try. Come and build something greater than yourself. And now, for the first time in a long time, it feels like we are.